I love it. I love it. So, Mr. Lamar, how's things going in your world today?
Today is a perfect day. So glad to be with you, Brian.
Great, great. Glad you're here. Well, listen, we're just going to kind of keep chatting here a little bit. We've been visiting for about 10 minutes, folks. If you're logging in now and seeing Lamar and myself, we're not actually going to start our official broadcast until 10 o'clock, and we're getting close to that. We're about 3 or 4 minutes away, so we're going to hold out for that time frame to officially launch our webinar. We're excited that you're here today. And Lamar, I know you travel around the country a little bit and give seminars and lectures, and you're here 1 minute and there the next.
Oh, yeah.
Where's your schedule going to take you here in the next couple of months? Where are you headed?
I've got several webinars coming up. I'm going to be delivering for the tax assessors of Mississippi. I've got every Thursday in April.
Oh, good for you.
Looks like I might be going up to New Hampshire. Got something in Tennessee, close to you guys. Let's see, Utah, California.
Wow.
It's been a lot of fun. I've been in 26 states so far and counting.
That's fantastic. And so you're going to be speaking to some assessors. So what you're doing now is outside of just appraisers.
It's been a remarkable journey. I've actually been in front of attorneys. I've been in front of conservation groups, search and rescue, TV broadcasters. It's been a lot of fun. Appraising, though, is my love, and I love everything about the valuation process, and that's how the seminar developed in the first place.
That's fantastic, and I'm really excited you're here today. I think Ben's got us going well where this should be working, and I've got Ben going to be throwing some things up for me, and I think he's going to be throwing some things up for you as well. So,
good.
We talk about technology, and it seems like people tend to resist change. I quote a little book all the time. It's called "Who Moved My Cheese" by Spencer Johnson, MD, and it's a cute little story about how things change. And we as human beings, especially appraisers, tend to resist change for whatever reason. But things are going to change. And I always ask my students, how many of you type appraisal reports using a typewriter these days? And Lamar, it's odd. I haven't found anybody still using a typewriter in the last several years. But it seems like we have a tendency to resist things. And the drones just, to me, it's another tool in the toolbox.
It definitely is a tool in the toolbox, and I am actually one of those appraisers that has resisted change. But the day I saw a news report using drones, and when I saw it flying over the house, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a game changer for what I do. And that was 5 years ago, and the journey has led me to you today. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's still a very small industry, and there's still a lot of opportunities out there for people to take advantage of it.
Very good. Very good. Well, again, I'm glad you're here, and we're going to go ahead and get started because in my world, I have 10 o'clock and 10 o'clock on the dot. So we're going to get started. I'd like to welcome everyone that's watching now and those that are clicking in minute by minute. My name is Bryan Reynolds, and this is the Appraisal Report webinar brought to you once a month, free of charge. So it's a great price for you. And that is sponsored by Appraiser eLearning. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to introduce Mr. Lamar this morning. He's a very interesting guy. He is a practicing appraiser. Lamar, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are, what you do, and if you don't mind, maybe how they can get in touch with you.
My name is Lamar Ellis. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I've been appraising for over 28 years now. I've got the MAI and the SRA designations through the Appraisal Institute. I'm actually an instructor with the Appraisal Institute, and I developed a seminar on drone technology 5 years ago. I saw a news report on drones for privacy infringement. But when I saw the drone flying over the property, I got to see the roof lines. I got to see everything from a different perspective. And because of that, I realized that this was an application that I could utilize. And because of my instructor background, I could actually bring it to other appraisers.
Boy, That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, I have a tremendous amount of questions that I want to ask, and I'm sure those that are watching right now probably have some questions too. So I'd like to remind all our viewers that if you have any questions, send those in to us. We'll get to as many of the questions that we can during this broadcast. Also, if you're not aware, we do record these webinars. So if you have to get off and go see a house real quick, we certainly understand. Maybe you set your car and fly your drone over it and not miss it. I don't know. But if you have to get off and you want to check out the rest of the webinar, it will be available pretty much right after the broadcast via recording. So we welcome you to come back and take a look at it. So let's talk about drones for a minute, Lamar. The question I have is, number one, is it, how hard is it to fly and let me premise this. I was teaching a class the other day, and Alan was in my class over in Ohio County, and a couple of the students were teasing him about drones. And I said, "Well, what's going on? Drones seem like a cool tool to me." And Alan spoke up, and he said, "Yeah." He said, "Here's what I did." He said, "I convinced my wife to let me buy a drone." Now, she said, you're gonna crash it. So you can only buy a lower cost, more inexpensive model. And if you do well with that, if you can prove that you can fly this thing, then you can graduate, and maybe for a present or something, we'll let you spend some real money and get a more expensive Cadillac model, if you will. And right. Alan was excited about it. And poor Alan said he got this thing up and he started flying it, and it kept on going. It just kept going. He couldn't control it. It just flew off into the sunset, and he still hasn't found that thing yet. So needless to say, his wife didn't let him go buy another one. But my question to you is, what's the learning curve with trying to figure out how to navigate one of these things?
Well, drones, you're flying in a three-dimensional space. And it's kind of interesting when you get a drone up into the sky that all of a sudden you're dealing with depth perceptions and other issues that you haven't really ever done by standing on the ground. My recommendation to anybody is exactly what Alan's wife said: buy yourself a low-end drone, buy yourself a little toy one. In fact, got this little toy one right here. It's kind of what I recommend. Get something really small that you can fly around the house, crash into walls. Usually you're not going to break it, and you can actually learn right off the bat if you've got a propensity to fly these things.
That's fantastic. Lamar, the one you have in your hand there, what kind of cost are we looking at for that little model?
$30.
$30, man. I need to buy a couple of those, because I'm sure I will destroy the first one.
Well,
so I assume if I get that one and fly it around my living room, I don't have to worry about licensing or certification or privacy laws or anything else like that. So let's talk about that for a minute. You want to get a drone. You've flown that one around and bumped it into some walls, and now you've graduated and you're a little bit better pilot. And so you want to get a little bit bigger model and maybe play around with it in your capacity as an appraiser, right? Like you said, fly it up and look over the roof of a property. You can certainly see more by using one of these things. Are there requirements to be licensed or certified, or can I just go out and buy a drone this afternoon and fly it around my neighborhood? What's the requirements with that?
You can buy a drone this afternoon and fly it around your neighborhood, but you're doing it recreationally. If you're going to do this for a commercial practice, and that means if you use the drone to produce any kind of photographs or videos that can be used in a report or sold for any kind of monetary gain, that's a commercial use, and you'll need what's called a Part 107 UAS, Unmanned Aerial Systems Remote Pilot Certificate from the FAA.
That's a Part 107 UAS certificate.
Yes.
So what's the process with that? I mean, how hard is that? As hard as taking the appraiser exam, or how hard is it to get one of those?
It's actually not as hard as you might think. It is actually an exam that the FAA created, but they want you to understand manned airspace. So it's a 60-question exam, takes 2 hours to complete, and you contact a testing center. If you go to the FAA website for unmanned aerial systems, they'll share with you the information on how to get to a knowledge testing site. There are a lot of great resources that can give you the information on how to pass the exam. All you need to do is score 70. It's
Great.
not that difficult, and there are some web apps that can really help you out to get there.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid as we speak. Okay. I'm excited, and I definitely want to go get one of those little models to maybe start out with. But let me go a step further here and just ask you some questions. And we're getting some questions in now from our viewers already, Lamar. So we'll get to some of those in just a moment. What do you see the purpose of a practicing appraiser to go out and go, because some of these drones, let's be honest, some of them are a little more expensive than others. I mean, so I know the cost can get kind of high. You can put still cameras on them, you can put videos on them. So what is if I'm going to make a capital expenditure, I like to see what kind of return I'm going to get. Not only a return of, but a return on, just like any investor does, right? So I guess my question is, how practical is it? I mean, what purpose does it serve? I mean, I appraise houses all the time. I appraise commercial properties all the time. What makes me a better appraiser because I have a drone in my toolbox?
Actually, drones can help you out immensely in problem properties. And one thing that appraisers have over any other industry is that we are legal to be able to inspect the house from the air. It's part of the inspection process. Now imagine this, you inspect the house from the air, and you've got, what I always suggest is that you take that video and that photographs and you file it in your, in a hard drive, external hard drive, have it marked as a file name, and put a drone photograph into your report so that it denotes that you've got a drone, that you did drone photographs and videos. Now, think about how many hands get onto your appraisal report. You've got investors, you've got homeowners, you've got builders, contractors, insurance agents, attorneys. There's so many people that have got access to those reports. Now, let's just go to a homeowner. They might want to sell their house, and now it's springtime and everything's blossoming, and it's in the middle of summer. And they're like, it just doesn't look as good now. But I know the appraiser was out there. Let me contact him, and maybe you got some ancillary business that can come off of those photos or videos. I will tell you this: banks are not paying for drone photographs right now. However, they see the value in it. They just don't know how to monetize that value. My goal is basically to say there's other industries that can utilize the videos and photographs that you're taking from your drones as an appraiser, because you've got the rights to inspect the property.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about opportunities that may exist because you know what you're doing with this drone here in a little bit. I know I got my real estate license just under 2 years ago. Like I needed something else to do, right? But I see when opportunity falls in front of me, and I like to be able to pick that opportunity up. I was telling a class just yesterday, I studied martial arts my whole life, and my brother used to kick me in the head. And I said, ouch, that hurts. And so he said, well, get your hand up. And then if I put my hand up too high, he'd slide a little chop into my rib cage. I said, that hurts. And he said, well, get your hand down, right? So the lesson of that was pain is an excellent reminder. And I had an opportunity one time to sell I did some consulting work for a client, and he had a bank building and said, here, he wanted me to list it. Well, I wasn't an agent. And so if you do the math real quick and figure out what the commission would be on a $3 million listing, that was painful.
Right.
Well, that will never happen to me again. When I got my real estate license. So if opportunity just falls in front of me, I'm going to seize that opportunity. I know as a real estate agent, I have paid, I think the last one, I paid about $400 for someone to go out and take professional photos for me. I'm not a photographer.
Right.
So I paid someone, a professional, to go out and take professional photos. And guess what else? Aerial photos via a drone and video. So I don't know how long he was there, but he did the drone, he did the pictures, and and I paid him $400, and it was worth that to me. Hey, we've got a couple of questions coming in. Let me go ahead and knock out one of these because it's similar to what we were talking about with the licensing a moment ago. So Kendall, thanks Kendall for watching. We're glad you're here. Kendall has a question, and Kendall says, I have a drone and I fly it for hobby use now. Do you need to get a Part 107 to use it for appraising? And I know, Lamar, you said if you're going to, take pictures for a realtor and sell them, you'd need it then, based on what you said. But what about appraising? She's using it as a tool during that process. Does she need to get that Part 107 as an appraiser?
Yes. Yes. And I think it's not wise not to get it because it's very simple right now. The cost is relatively cheap at $150, and your license is, or your certification is good for 2 years until you'll have to take the exam again. Also, you're using the drone to make money. If you're appraising, you're making money. So if the drone is assisting you in that valuation process, then yes, definitely.
Very good. I have another question. The question says, I have insurance to cover my drone if it gets in an accident. However, is it necessary to carry a liability insurance in the case that the drone fell out of the sky and damaged a property in some way? What's your thoughts on that?
I think you'd rather get the insurance that if you damaged property or somebody is more relevant than if you damaged the drone.
Absolutely.
It's $1,000 drone is nothing compared to somebody, injuring somebody pretty badly. So, yes, definitely go ahead and get insurance, liability insurance for personal and property.
We talked about using a drone to help you with your appraisal inspection. And what I want to do just real quick, and Ben has this reference. I'm going to have him throw it up. There's a frequently asked question in USPEP. Okay. And for all the viewers, we have non-appraisers viewing this as well. So I'll just let folks know that USPEP is our minimum standards, right? USPEP, the preamble, the very first sentence says that the purpose is to promote and maintain a high level of public trust by establishing requirements for appraisers, minimum requirements. I don't know if I quoted that precisely, but that's the gist. Okay. So one question came up, and I believe Ben's got that up on the screen for our viewers to see. And the question is frequently asked question number 214 of USPEP. And I'm not going to read all that. It's there on the screen. You can see it. But basically the question is asking, can I use a drone, and is a drone considered an inspection? And so now we'll pull the answer up, and the answer to most appraisal related questions I found is it depends, right?
Yeah,
correct. So Ben, if you could put the answer up there, the answer basically says that, I think he's trying to find it maybe, but the answer to frequently asked question number 214 says, yes, you can use a drone. But again, it depends. If the drone is being used as part of your inspection, in other words, what Lamar said earlier, you want to see the roof. Maybe you're appraising a 2-story building and it's got a flat roof, and you just can't see the roof from the ground observation, right? So yeah, you could fly that drone up there and get a real nice look at what the characteristics and the condition of that roof is via a drone. So that absolutely is acceptable to do that. Now, what you can't do is me say, hey, Lamar, you've got that drone out. I've got 2 other houses down the street. Why don't you and I just sit here and have lunch, and you fly it down the neighborhood and fly over those 2 houses, and man, we'll just do our inspection sitting right here. You can't do that. I mean, you could do that, but you wouldn't be able to call it an inspection, right? USPEP doesn't require you to inspect anything. So that's the look from the Appraisal Foundation. USPEP, the frequently asked question 214. It's on your screen. You can certainly read that on your own. So now we know that the Uniform Standard says, yeah, it's fine to use a drone. What are some other applications? I know I met a gentleman that specializes in agricultural appraising. He appraises farms. And he says he uses a drone every time he does a farm. I mean, my gosh, he can see the whole farm
Exactly.
as opposed to driving around a couple of 100 acres or so. So what is the distance of these things? I mean, if I've got a 500-acre farm, could I fly around that, or how far can the drone go?
These drones can go up. Well, I've got the Mavic Pro. It can go up to 7 miles, but the rules and regulations state that you have to have it within your line of sight,
Okay,
either the operator's line of sight or a visual observer.
great.
Now, they have talked about maybe daisy chaining visual observers so that I could pass it on to the next visual observer and pass it on, as long as the controller of the drone had somebody looking at it in the three-dimensional space up above. So essentially, you can really look at about 50 acres with a drone up in the air.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
lot.
yeah, it's a lot, but you're talking 500 acres. So then you're going to have to, if you're a single person, you're going to have to move up to the next.
Sure.
So you can basically stand in the center of 100 acres and see, see the whole entire parcel. So I guess that's five shots from
Right.
from the air. Uh,
And how I tend to crash everything I put my hands on. So how durable are these things? I mean, if I spend a little more money than the beginner model and I'm out flying this thing around, I hit a tree or something, or I lose control and I have to go recover it. Do they break pretty? I know when digital cameras first came out, if you dropped one, they weren't disposable back then. You didn't go just buy another one. You prayed that you could get this one repaired because they were quite
right.
expensive. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I've crashed a few drones,
Okay,
and I always say you're going to crash. I've got some colleagues that say don't ever say that because some people don't. But honestly, that's one of the reasons I recommend a toy. There
sure.
are some people that should never ever fly a drone.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I've got somebody that has flown a drone for me, and uh, they crashed one of my drones. One of my drones flew off, and the other drone hit a couch and wrapped around some cat hair and fried the motors.
oh
So
no,
it's like that's $120 worth of drones right there, and so they're not allowed to touch anything that I own. Uh, but I've hit trees, and it depends on the drone. It depends on the degree of hitting. Uh, if you land in soft grass, damage might not be as bad as if you landed on the street. So
sure.
it's just again, it's like you said, it depends.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Hey, I want to talk in just a minute about some of the different things outside of appraising
okay,
where you might be able to use a drone. We'll get to that in just a minute. But right now, I really want to focus for the appraiser, for the practicing appraiser, the boots on the ground appraiser, if you will. What are some ways in which you've used? I know we talked about maybe above the property to see the roof. We've talked
okay.
about a farm. What are some of the other applications that you've used these drones to assist you in your appraisal profession?
It gives you the entire scope of the site, so you
Mhm.
can actually see. If you've got a beach property, you can see you can place the drone to where you got the house in position to the water. You can actually set it up to where you can. Uh, I can't tell you how many houses that I've had that are on the edge of a lake or the edge of a mountain that I can't really get a good shot of the back end of that property, nor can I
Right.
really visualize when I'm standing on the ground what's going on, maybe at the on the first and second floors. And drones can actually assist you in seeing the quality and condition of the exterior of your property. It's I've had a church where they were supposed to repair the steeple and you couldn't see it from the ground, but the drone was able to get up there and I found out they didn't repair the steeple.
Ah, nice,
So
nice.
there's applications where you just don't have a ladder that you can get up, nor is there access to the upper side, so you can't really get a chance to see that. You can see how driveways. I've got one thing where you've got the easement that goes to a piece of property, and it's just the driveway squeezed in between two lots, and you actually get to see how that house is sitting up against the road and how you access it. It gives you a more visual, appealing look at what you're looking at, I guess.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, you know, I always try to think outside the box, you know, and I used to be always in the box,
Right.
but now I try to think outside the box and look for opportunities, and you know what would be really nice if you're doing an FHA appraisal, they really want you to look in the attic, look in the crawl space, and the minimum is, of course, if you can't access it, there's different things that there are always exceptions to the rule, right? But the minimum, if possible, in a safe environment, they want you to do head and shoulders.
Right.
And man, what I would love to do is take that little thing you had a while ago. I'd like to take like a bumblebee size drone out of my pocket and just fly that thing around the attic. I mean, guys, common sense dictates if we put a video camera or a still camera even and flew it around that attic and spend some time with it, maybe it's got to be infrared or light up. I don't know how you would do that, but wouldn't we be able to get a clearer picture of what's going on in that attic than just a quick head and shoulders? Or
Oh
when
my
you
gosh, yes.
when you do the crawl space, you know, I don't know if any other appraisers crawl on their belly like a snake. I know I sure don't. But you're putting your head and shoulders in that crawl space access. It's dark. I know a guy that got bit by a brown recluse. He says, I'm not doing that anymore. Right. It's dark, even with a spotlight. Your field of sight is somewhat limited. And man, maybe we could put a drone to fly around the crawl space and light it up. And we need, maybe we've got some folks from HUD watching this webinar. We need to embrace these tools and technology that's available to help us do our job, not only do our job, but to do our job better. Are there drones that small, Lamar, that has cameras and video capability to where that would even be possible at this time?
Oh yeah, yeah. They're in development right now, and as a matter of fact, it's for other applications like bridge inspections, where you want to take it up inside the girders of the bridges and to make sure that everything is that the structural integrity is good. They are encapsulated in balls. So if you run into a wall, you're not going to have that drone sitting in the middle of the crawl space. Now you got to go crawling in there anyway, so you can get your drone.
Right, right.
They have thermal imaging, ultraviolet, and regular lighting for the cameras. So there's a variety of different things that it can aspects it can pick up.
That's
Now,
amazing.
it might be the future, but the way this stuff is propagating, it could be tomorrow that you're going to see these new kinds of drones out because they're already in development.
That's fantastic. It's exciting as well. I mean, it's very exciting. We've got some other questions coming in. Let me ask you a couple real quick. And one of them asked about a video, and I think you've got some videos for us, so we may let you go ahead and fire one of those up if Ben can be on standby for that. So here's the question. I can't see the question, so let me get some help here. So Dan K asked a question. He said, are there any tutorial videos on learning to fly drones?
Oh, there's plenty of tutorial videos.
All right.
What amazes me is that most people will put up videos on what not to do and show their accidents, which I find kind of funny. But I suggest anytime that you're thinking about buying a drone or purchasing it, get on the internet, look up YouTube, and look up that drone. And there's plenty of tutorials that are out there. As a matter of fact, I'm in the process of putting some tutorials together on the Mavic Pro and also the unique Q500 that's behind me. It's every drone requires different setups, and once you get used to the way those things are set up and you start to utilize and understand it, the capabilities and the things that you can achieve are just amazing. But yes, there are, and I do suggest that you get onto YouTube. It is the best source out there right now.
Right, right. And this broadcast is going to be on YouTube, believe it or not. So there we go. Let me ask you this, you know, we see our world these days is like this, you know, everybody's got a phone. I mean, that's your livelihood. And I do encourage folks, turn your phone off for a day. Just take one day, turn it off completely. You'll be glad you did. But I understand it's I mean, it's the way we run our lives today. I ask folks all the time, what's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? You know, most people are checking their email, checking their text messages, checking their bank account, checking Facebook, something. You're grabbing that phone. Sad but true. It's just the reality of the world we live in. Let me ask you this, and you know, my mother, she's 83, I believe. She's on Facebook probably right now, every day, right? So it doesn't matter how old you are, you can adapt to some of this. What is the case with the drones, though? I mean, is it anybody can do this, or is this more of a young person game, or will it take you 5 years to be a master of how to drive one of these things or steer it? Give us a little
I
insight on that.
I think it's like anything in life. You've got the Michael Jordans that are just absolutely exceptional, and then you've got those that just absolutely shouldn't touch it at all. And
Right.
that's why I say get the toy one, because my gosh, if you crash a $30 toy, that makes you feel a whole lot better if you instead of slamming a $1,500 drone into a tree.
Sure.
So yeah, I've got some friends out there that are some of the best flyers that I've ever run across, and they just got a knack. They can capture the shots that everybody's wanting.
And if you really want to get into this stuff outside of work, if you want to use it for entertainment, and I think that's how most of the folks involved in drones started anyway.
Right.
I saw the other day on a news broadcast, they've created a sport, and it's actually drone racing.
Oh
And these
yeah.
things were phenomenal. They're all lit up, and it looked really cool. I don't know much about it, but these things were flying through the air like lightning. It was hard to keep up with them. So, well, we've got some more questions coming in. We've got a lot more to talk about, but we're at the midway point already. Time flies, I guess, as drones do when you're having fun. So, I would like to remind our viewers, if you'd like to ask a question, feel free to send that in. We've got several coming in as I speak. This session is being recorded, as all of our sessions are recorded, and will be available for a rebroadcast you can check out at your leisure. And again, that is free of charge. My name is Bryan Reynolds. This is the Appraisal Report webinar, and it's brought to you by Appraiser eLearning. Hey, if you're near Nashville or in Nashville, or just want to come check out Nashville, I'd like to remind our viewers we've got an upcoming seminar called ACTS, the Appraiser Conference and Trade Show in Nashville, Tennessee, the beginning of April. We're going to have speakers from all over the country, appraisers from all over the country, vendors from all over the country. So if you haven't been to an appraisal conference, we highly recommend you check it out and come join us in Nashville. All right, so let me ask you a couple more questions, Lamar, and we'll go from there. So here's a new question. A gentleman asked, which drone would you recommend for an average appraiser? I'm not sure what the definition of an average appraiser is, but what drone would be your recommendation? They want to upgrade from the little toy model,
Right.
and maybe actually start using it in their field, but they don't want to spend $5,000 on something.
Well, I I'm a firm believer in. I like the DJI products, and the reason I like DJI is because they have a lot of ancillary applications that can be utilized with the drones, such as mapping programs and flight programs. I've got the unique Q500, which I really like the unique drone. However, it doesn't have those programs to where I can have a pre-programmed flight. So DJI has been a really good type of drone. The Phantom series and the Mavic series are really good. My suggestion, though, is if you buy a drone, go ahead and buy yourself the Pro Pack. Now, what a Pro Pack is that it gives you a little case, gives you extra batteries, some extra propellers, and some of the extra things that you might need with that drone. If you buy a singular drone, you've only got one battery, and so that's only 20 minutes of flight time. And I have found that once you've done that 20 minutes of flight time, then you've got to recharge the battery. So it kind of limits you on what you can do.
Right.
So
Right. How long does it typically take to recharge a battery like that?
it depends on the charging systems that you have. I've got with my Mavic, I've got with the Pro Pack, I ended up getting a charger that would charge up to 4 batteries.
Oh, nice.
And so it takes about 30 to 45 minutes of battery. But again, if you've only got one and you look at a piece of property and you didn't get all the shots you wanted, you bring it down, you're going to have to recharge that battery before you can send it back up again.
Right. Hey, Lamar, let me ask you the control mechanism for these things.
Right.
I was at the lake last year, and a guy had the hard case you're talking about. I mean, we're on the lake having a good
Right.
time, and this guy has what looks like a suitcase he's carrying around. All of a sudden, he opens it up and he grabs this drone, and the propeller starts spinning, and he just lets it go, and it takes off.
Right.
And it was awesome. And he actually had the control via his iPhone, which
Right.
was amazing to me. Is that typically how we're controlling these drones, or do they come with a control? We all as little kids had remote control cars, and some of us had remote control boats, and I tried to have a plane one time, but man, that didn't work too well. So
I'll tell you this. I don't think flying by the phone is really that wise, because it's more of a Wi-Fi signal that can be broken really easily by obstructions, metal in the air. When you have one of these transmitters, you've got a designated signal directly to the drone that doesn't typically lose its link as easily. I've flown by my phone before, and I've actually got a drone that flies by my phone, and it lost its link connection about 100 yards away in the middle of a bunch of trees, and I couldn't reestablish it until it just floated down on its own.
oh gosh,
So it's I would not fly my drone by the phone over water. I just would be afraid of losing the link.
sure, sure,
But yes, you can. And what you'd use the phone for maybe is to do a pre-programmed flight. And that's what I was talking about. You could program the coordinates of where you are and have it flying around. But chances of losing link by your phone are a lot greater than losing it by a transmitter.
Gotcha. So when I buy a drone, and I assume maybe even that little bitty starter one that you showed held up a
Yes.
while ago, does that come with a controller?
Yes, it does.
Great.
Yes, it does. But when you get into the higher ends, the chances of your controller linking up to another person's drone are remote. These little toy ones, I have seen it where two people are flying the same type of drone, and one controller takes over the other drone.
Oh goodness, yeah.
Yes.
Battle of the
So,
drones, huh?
exactly.
And so you mentioned something a moment ago. You mentioned putting coordinates in.
Hmm.
And boy, with GPS and everything we have technology wise, I mean, tractors can drive themselves, right?
Oh, exactly.
Cars can drive themselves. So you could actually put the coordinates in, and the drone could kind of do all the work and then just come back to you when it's done. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. The only thing that's prohibiting that from being really utilized right now is the line of sight rules.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And as a matter of fact, was working with a company that was getting pilots for a test program for an insurance company here in town, and they gave us pre-programmed flights, but we had to have pilots that could be at the controls just in case it came off that pre-programmed flight.
Gotcha. I have a couple of comments and some questions. So let me
Okay.
get to some of those. Apparently, we have a comment here from a gentleman that knows a little bit about drones, because he said you can also get your drone stolen by using the Wi-Fi. Be careful. So
Oh yeah. Yeah.
that's an excellent observation. Here's a question for you. It says, do you know anything about drone traffic management system in some cities? He says UT El Paso developed it for El Paso, Texas.
I don't know anything about El Paso, but I know they're testing these systems out in Singapore right now. And that in the state of New York, they've got a 50-mile swatch of land that NASA and the FAA are working on the Uniform Traffic Management System. And I do believe the next test that's going to happen is the fact they're going to put multiple drones in the air to deliver packages, just to see that for the Uniform Traffic Management System is they want to identify every drone that's in the sky so that they can avoid each other. So we don't have drones hitting each other when they're up in the air, and so that they don't get into air traffic control, the airspace of airplanes too.
Isn't that amazing? Speaking
Yes.
about the airspace of commercial jets or even private planes, how high can these drones go? I mean, if I'm appraising a 40-story building, right? Maybe I'm doing
Okay.
an office building or something, and I want to see the roof on that sucker.
Okay.
Can it go that high? I mean, how high can these go?
I saw a report at the beginning of this week of a kid in Russia that took his drone up 33,000 feet.
Oh my goodness.
And it was one of the regular kind of commercial models. And I mean, that's absolutely insane.
Wow.
The rules are basically that you could take it up 400 feet above AGL or above the structure. So if your structure is 1,000 feet high, you can take it up 400 feet above that structure or within 400 feet of that structure. So imagine a cone around a building. You'd have that area to be able to fly in. But now you're getting into airspace rules,
Mhm. Right.
and let's say you legally can fly up to 700 feet without notifying any of the authorities. Now that building's over 1,000 feet, you might have to notify somebody that you're going to be in that controlled airspace for
Right.
manned aircraft. So,
Right. Right. The licensing is, what kind of cost are we talking about to go through that and get that commercial license that Part 107 that you were speaking about earlier? What's it going to cost me to do that?
well, it's $150, and there's some free programs out there that you can go through. One of them is 3DR Solo has got a testing program that's free. There's a gentleman out of Florida who's an attorney, Jonathan Ruprecht, Rupprecht. He is one of the leading advocates of drone technology, and he has got a free testing site, and the FAA's got a free testing site. You can utilize all three of those sources, and they can give you a pretty good indication of what's going to be on the test. There are also some apps that are on the market, and I used one of those. It's a $29.95 app, and it's a remote pilot testing app for Part 107. And it was quite efficient in being able to teach me all the things that I needed to know for the exam. But the one thing I don't like about it is the fact that they don't test you on whether you can fly the thing. It's just so essentially all you have to do is pass the airspace exam and then take a safety class, and you've got your certification.
And that certification is good for how long?
2 years.
Okay. Do you have to retest, or is it just a recertification process?
Well, it was August 29th of 2016 was the first set of tests that came along. So we are about to hit the 2 year ending of the initial certification. So I don't know what the next cost is going to be to recertify. I can assume it's probably going to be another $150. They're
Sure.
just going to make sure that you're tested on the airspace.
Sure. So I have a question here. This person is asking, can drones help with the beware of dog problem appraisers may experience when trying to access the backyard of a property?
Of course, unless that dog can really jump.
We don't have to worry about the dog grabbing the drone. We're in good shape.
No,
I would think that would just simply be a disclosure issue. I wasn't able, it was a safety concern. I wasn't able to get out back, so I flew my drone back there, and this is what I was able to capture. So that, to me, that is a great reason to have one of these things.
Oh yeah.
It's just another fantastic example as to how those can be useful and helpful for the appraiser. We entitled this webinar "Flyby" or "Flyover." When drive-by appraisal inspections, drive-by appraisals, if you will, first came out on the scene. Man, appraisers resisted those like crazy, didn't they? Well, I can't appraise something that I can't see or touch or feel or smell. And I'm a touchy-feely kind of guy. I like to be able to have resources, or if I make a statement, I like to be able to, just like I did that FAQ a moment ago, I went right to the authoritative source and shared it with our viewers, didn't I? Put it right up on the screen. So I'm with you. I was one of those guys that resisted the drive-by. Now I'll do them all the time. Somebody calls me up and says, "Brian, do you do drive-bys?" I say, "Absolutely." They say, "Well, what do you charge?" And I say, "Well, it depends on how fast I drive by it." Right. So we need to consider this as not only a tool, but maybe a completely other service that we can provide as valuation professionals. I mean, if you're doing a foreclosure, if you're doing maybe you have a property that has a hostile tenant in there, and you can't physically go look at it. right? It's a safety related item. What a great use. What a great useful tool that you could use. Um, let me ask you this. So we've talked about how these things can be very, very beneficial for the appraiser. Um, if I wanted to kind of dabble this, and I'm always looking for opportunity, right?
Right.
If I become Part 107 UAS certified or licensed, whatever they call that, and so now I have the ability not to just do this thing recreational. I have the ability to go take some pictures and sell them, right?
Correct. Hmm.
What other types of uses, Lamar? How do you see that I could have a side business, if you will, where I can actually capitalize on this? What are some of the things that someone might be able to do?
Oh my gosh, it's endless. If you wanted to shoot photographs of maybe weddings, or you wanted to do conservation, you wanted to search and rescue, I've gotten involved in. Uh, my gosh, I'm losing losing my focus. I'll tell you
Insurance
this.
claims, I think. Insurance claims,
Oh yeah,
disaster. Yeah, yeah.
think about this. You look at a house today, and or whatever, a building, and you've got drone photographs of that building as of today's date, the 22nd of March, and tomorrow a tornado goes racing through that area and takes that down. Well, the insurance company would certainly pay you money to see the photographs of that, as near that would be what they would call a baseline.
Mhm.
So you've got a baseline photograph of what it looked like us of a particular date. And that's why I'm saying don't give away the farm when you give it to your clients. Your clients aren't asking for you for drone photographs or videos anyway, but it's a proof of concept kind of model. You've got it. If you store it correctly and you can find it, then there's ways of making money on the side after you've completed the
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, I think you said it best when you said the opportunities are really just endless. As far as your imagination can go, and these are just really cool. I mean, uh, how many times have you appraised a property, maybe a rural property or a urban? Look that word up. That's a word. Urban property. And you're going through their house, and they've got a picture on the wall, and it's an aerial photo of the little farm or the hobby farm, whatever you like. And I see that all the time, and they've actually paid a pilot to shoot those pictures. Um, People love that kind of thing, so it really is a cool tool. And if you get at least fairly good at it, you could probably market that and make some money in other avenues. So I believe we've got a video, and I'm going to have Ben go ahead and do that. I think you said you had a video that could kind of show some things flying or where they could get more information. Or
Yeah,
what?
I've got a 2017 promotional video that shows a lot of different applications that you can use drones for. And if you want to throw that up, I can, do a little talk over as far as it's going up, and
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely,
add some stuff to it.
absolutely.
Okay. So as soon as Ben's
I
ready.
think I think he's got it loading right now. So it'll be just a second, folks. Here we
Okay.
go.
All right. This is my 2017 video, and it starts off with me being out in Boulder, Colorado. That's my company, Drone Noir. And so a lot of these videos have come from myself, but they've also come from some of my colleagues. Uh, there's Robin Mola with Flyworks, Jonathan La Liberty with Third Eye Aerial Media, and Kelsey Norris with Southeast Drone. And as you can see, like construction in progress, they have mass appraisals with lots of different homes. That is my drone, the Mavic Pro. That thing is an awesome drone. Roof inspections, that was done out in Oregon. Interior inspections, you have to be aware of the air drafts and the currents inside. That's a drone that Roman uses on Hollywood movies. You can do forestry, agriculture, uh, crop management, irrigation equipment monitoring. When corn is halfway up in its cycle, you can't always see your if the irrigation equipment's working. This is where it's really going to go: photogrammetry, firefighting, That goes along with search and rescue.
And
Let's
you
see.
said you've done some of that, right?
Oh yeah. The
Fantastic.
Inspire, that's the Q500. Tracking cattle, counting cattle. I've been in front of a whole bunch of ranchers that want to use it. Locating animals when cattle runs off, they can find it with a drone a lot faster than if they drove their truck out there. Traffic monitoring is actually one of those kind of issues that I have found in appraising that has been extremely helpful. Right-of-way inspections, wind turbine inspections, where to place the wind turbines if the machines are breaking down, cell towers. Every one of those antennas belongs to a different company. They want to see if they're set correctly. Just basically showing you some of the equipment on drones. There's a Phantom, another Phantom. I think that's the Phantom 4. Bridge inspections. As you can see, you're getting different perspectives. Marina inspections. How many slips are rented? What's the condition of this sloops? Thermal imaging. You can set the thermal imager to different color contrast to see what you want. Railway inspections. Are the tracks damaged? And then this is the way it closes. That's me with a pull away. The drone's actually not that far away, but the way the camera is set, it makes it look like it is miles away from where I'm staying.
Sure,
So those are
sure.
some of the applications.
How cool is that? You know, I mean, it is just really, really cool. It's a neat device. It's a neat application, and not only is it neat and cool and has that wow factor, it's useful. It's a very useful tool that benefits us as appraisers. And I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to say it benefits our clients and it benefits the consumers, the public at large. Let me ask you this: where should I buy one? I mean, I'm convinced I'm going to get one, right? So I'm ready to roll. Where should I go buy one? Should I try and shop around online? Should I go to a store? I've seen these in some of the stores like Best Buy, different places. Where's your recommendation that I should go buy one?
I've bought them from Fry's. I've bought them from Barnes and Noble. I've gone on Amazon. We've got a store here in Atlanta called Atlanta Hobby. What I found about DJI products is they don't allow their vendors to charge more. So they set the price. So everybody's going to charge the same amount for their products. The thing about getting a product where you live is if there's a problem with it, it's a lot easier to return than to send it back to the person that you purchased it from. But I have bought them online. I have not really run into any problems with anything that I've purchased. I will say though, again, if you buy a drone, make sure that you get an extra battery or two.
Yeah, it's going to be frustrating. You run out of juice, you know, right?
Oh,
Right when you
exactly.
start having a good time and can steer this thing, you're dead. So
Exactly.
no, I'm with you. So one more time, and I know you mentioned, and I'm not asking you necessarily to endorse a specific product, but um, if I wanted to get a drone, and I don't want to buy, you know, the $5,000 model, but I'm willing to spend a little bit of money. I want a camera on it
Okay.
that will grab good still photos, and just for fun I'd like to be able to do a little bit of video. What kind of cost am I looking at?
About 1,000 to 1,500,
Okay.
and you can get a really good drone for 1,000 with really good high definition camera on it. Uh, but here's the thing: I recommend buying the newest, biggest, and best. The reason being, it's like the cell phone. They upgrade their firmware. And if you don't get the newer ones, then you don't get the upgrades in the firmware in a couple of years. And so your chances of, if you go and buy yourself an older type of drone, chances are if you crash it and you have to update the firmware, you might not be able to.
Sure, sure.
So it's and the way the technology is changing, they've now got we're about to hit a third generation of drones where they've got sense and avoid technologies, which are uh, just going to really spin your head. They can sense things above it, below it, behind it, corners. So these are the things that are necessary to bring it into the more commercial environment. Because right now you drive around, you might see a drone once in a blue moon, but one day you're going to see a bunch of them in the sky, and they've got
Absolutely.
they've got to be able to avoid each other. So,
well, I envision a few years from now, what we're going to be able to do. You can fly your drone over to my house. I'll just jump in it. You can fly me down to your office and we'll have dinner, right? I'm looking forward to that. I think that'll be great. But in the short term, you had me when you said cattle. I'm a deer hunter and I'm always trying to figure out where to put my stands and come find these deer. And heck, I'll just fly this sucker around the farm and find where they're bedding down and make better informed decisions that way. I mean, why not use the tools that are available? Hey, Mr. Lamar Ellis, MAI-SRA, I appreciate you being here today. What a fantastic show. We'd love to have you back. Do me a favor, give everyone your contact information. I know we've got a lot of folks out there watching today, and this will be watched many times over a recorded session, I'm sure. There's probably some folks that have other questions. We got to most of them today. There's a couple, and I apologize, folks, we ran out of time for a couple of you that I missed. But Lamar, how can someone get in touch with you if they'd like to speak to you personally?
I've got contact me through Facebook, my Drone Noir page, or my personal page, Lamar Ellis. And Drone Noir is DRONENOIR. You can see it on the sign behind me. I've also got a website, www.dronenoir.com. It's in the process of being reconstructed right now. I want to get it to a point where I can give a lot of valuable information so that I'd be the one-stop shop for this. I'm actually working on a book right now that I'm hoping to have complete in the next couple of months. The initial rough draft is already done. And I really want to bring this to appraisers so that they can actually utilize this as a tool. Contact me on Facebook, and I'll certainly answer your questions. I also have a LinkedIn page under Lamar Ellis. So social network, I have been kind of balking at. I was one of those slow to adopt, and now I'm jumping into it full force. And so things are not always as good as they're supposed to be, but the Facebook page is there.
Yeah,
so,
I get tired of that. I'm not a big fan of all that stuff either. And in fact, my new administrator, Justin Reitmeyer, is handling some of my pages, so I don't even see it. He takes good care of me, and he's kind of the administrator on those things now. So I'm happy to have him. Let me ask you this: your sign says seminar and consulting.
Yeah.
So where can somebody find you or maybe a list or a where are you going to be conducting the seminar? And number two, tell us briefly what's covered in this seminar. I mean, am I going to take a seminar and when I leave there be able to fly without hitting a tree, or what is in the seminar?
I don't teach you how to fly.
Okay.
Because that would take all day. That would be a one-on-one kind of basis.
Gotcha.
What I'm going to go through are the rules and regulations, some of the state laws that are concerned, the benefits, the different applications, insurance, privacy laws. I've got at least 2 days worth of material. When I first started out, I had a 4-hour seminar. I couldn't fill it. And now I've got more material than I could ever dream of. And I go through basically inspection techniques, so that things that you could be aware of, compliance, like having your insurance papers, your certification papers, any kind of contracts, how to deal with your clients, how to deal with the general public that you're around. The seminar covers a variety of things, and I can tailor it to exactly what your needs are. But I've got about 2 days worth of material, so I'm trying to pack it in.
And not that this should matter, but I know I've got some folks out there watching probably wanting the answer to this question. Heaven forbid somebody take a class for the education, right?
Right.
But we should, have a thirst for knowledge, live like you're, learn like you're going to live forever.
Yes.
That old saying, I live every life like I'm going to die, and get the most out of life. But I like the saying that says, learn like you'll live forever. Have that thirst for knowledge. So it shouldn't matter whether or not it counts for CE. It's a wealth of information. But do any of these seminars or courses you have, can they get CE credit?
Oh, yes. And that's the only reason why I've been able to present these in the States. They've been getting CE credit for the States, plus they've been getting CE credit for their organizations, whether it's the coalition or the institute, or in front of the Bar Association. Did the seminar in front of the East Coast insurers, insurance agents. So they've gotten educational credits too.
That's fantastic. That's just a bonus. That's not the reason I would come, but it is a little bonus for those that need CE. Well, Mr. Lamar Ellis, thank you once again for being here today. Exciting topic. You brought a lot of information to our viewers and to me, quite frankly. I've drank the Kool-Aid. I'm ready to buy one and fly it around and crash it into the walls at least. So thank you very much for being here. Hope to have you back again real soon.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you so very much.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. If you have a topic that you would like to hear us present, if you have a particular guest you would like us on, please let us know. Contact myself or Ben or Hal or Jim or Doug, any one of the team members, and we'll reach out and try and have those folks on. Again, Bryan Reynolds with the Appraisal Report webinar. Thank you very much and have a great day.